Morning, everyone, and welcome to Economic Alliance Snohomish County March edition of Coffee Chats. Green economy, building a sustainable future. I'm Ray Stephenson, President and CEO of Economic Alliance Snohomish County, and I'm thrilled to have you all join us this morning. Snohomish County is at the forefront of innovation in the green economy, from advancements in renewable energy to cutting-edge clean technology solutions. Our region is home to businesses and organizations working to build a more sustainable future. Today, we're bringing together industry leaders to explore how these efforts are driving the economic growth of our county, what challenges we must overcome, and how do businesses play a role in this transformation. I'd like to extend a special thanks to our event sponsor, Herald Media, for their support in making this conversation possible. And of course, we're honored to have an exceptional lineup of speakers with us today. First, I'd like to introduce Mel Clark. Mel Clark is the President and CEO of CleanTech Alliance, bringing expertise on a broader, cleaner technology ecosystem and how Washington is positioning itself as a leader in sustainable driven industries. Secondly, Harry Birak, Senior Business Development Manager for Washington State Department of Commerce, will provide insight on how the state is supporting the green economy growth through policy, funding opportunities, and industrial partnerships. Jay Heim, Zero Emissions Program Manager at Community Transit, will share insights on the agency's transition to a zero-emission fleet, the challenges of electrification, and the role of government support in sustainable transit. And John Hoffman, Chief Customer Officer for Snohomish County PUD, who will share insights on clean energy advancements, grid modernization, and what businesses need to know about the future of renewable energy. And Barbara Wharton is with us as well, from a project manager for Echandia, a company leading the way for energy storage solutions for heavy-duty marine applications, now operating right here in the city of Marysville. I want to thank you all for joining us, and let's jump right into the discussion. Just a reminder for those joining via Zoom, please enter any questions that you may have in today's topic into the chat, and we'll relay those questions if we have time. First of all, the green economy and Snohomish County's role. Washington has positioned itself as a leader in clean technology and sustainable driven industries. What makes Snohomish County an ideal place for the green economy? Mel, a statewide perspective, how does Washington support the growth of clean energy and sustainability focused industries? Are there specific areas where you see the most momentum?
So good morning, everyone. I'm the President and CEO of the CleanTech Alliance. We're the largest industry-focused trade association on clean energy and clean technology in America, headquartered in Seattle, with quite a few members in Snohomish County and Everett. It's a really exciting time to be continuing to drive forward on clean energy projects. There has been a shift in federal funding priorities, but we have a really interesting mix of industry, workforce development organizations, and state agencies that are all working to continue the charge, pun fully intended, to help make sure we realize a clean energy future. It's particularly exciting in the state of Washington that our energy policy is inextricably linked with equity. While federal priorities are shifting, it's the law of the land here that we must make sure benefits flow to all communities. And we're very excited that the state's Cap and Invest program has remained in place. It's going to help fuel and drive a lot of innovations because we have to do things differently. Because of our strong suite of climate legislation, we have to do things differently, and that's going to create opportunity for innovation. And we're seeing that happen with companies like Zap Energy and Helion locating into Everett and Snohomish County, specifically to take advantage of so many things that community has to offer.
Thank you, Mel. I appreciate that. Harry, can you highlight some key initiatives or incentives that Washington State Department of Commerce is offering to help businesses transition to sustainable practices?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ray, as well. Harry Birak with the Washington State Department of Commerce. So there are, when we talk about incentives, there's a lot of statutory things that exist out there. And one offer I always like to extend is if you're a company looking into this field, please reach out to us, especially my team over here at Commerce. We're here to help you explore the statutory uh, incentive environment. So there are a lot of things on the books already that can help existing manufacturers, existing businesses with their technologies now. So connect with us on that. Those statutory incentives also then extend into the green sector too. There's a lot more flexibility with incentives when you are a manufacturer and going into the climate tech side of things. For example, you can get a sales use tax deferral on your manufacturing machinery and equipment in the state. That's both your city and your local tax rate. So it depends in Snohomish County, ultimately what that tax rate is. But yeah, very helpful. Additionally, we have a number of initiatives tied with grant dollars. Mel touched on it briefly. Obviously, the Climate Commitment Act is a major funding source for the Washington State Department of Commerce. Um, we are utilizing some of these dollars with, the Green Jobs Fund, or the Green Jobs Grant Program that was released in 2025. So that's, CCA dollars to help support high wage clean energy jobs, support private public clean infrastructure projects, workforce training projects, things like that. But we also have the Evergreen Manufacturing Growth Grant, the Governor's Strategic Reserve Fund, and there are a number of other commerce-related funds like the Clean Energy Fund, always a high target for companies looking into this sector, and keep it on your radars. It's a very good funding source for you as well. But that'd be the general things. We're here to help you explore the statutory environment. We have flexible discretionary grants and competitive grants as well. So those are some of the highlights.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate that very much. This question for Jay: infrastructure is a key factor in making sustainable solutions viable, whether it's electrification of transit, energy storage for clean power, or supply chain improvements. What infrastructure investments are most critical to advancing the green economy in Snohomish County?
It's a great question. Infrastructure absolutely is kind of the leading edge for any kind of transition to clean technology. Us being a transit provider, and for those of you who don't know us, maybe a little bit of background about community transit, just briefly here. We operate heavy duty bus service and a number of other services like our ZIP shuttle and others in Snohomish County with a pretty diverse 1,300-mile service area across cities, rural service, highways, and hills. So a lot of the buses that you see help get people from where they are to where they want to be. And we can't do that without infrastructure. I see we have some representatives from the PUD on the line here as well, and we have enjoyed a deep partnership with the PUD throughout our planning effort. And it really starts with the utility. It's like where can we get electricity? How much can we get? What is the fuel mix for that electricity, and how much does that move the needle for our efforts? We're very fortunate that out here in Washington State, we have a lot of hydro and other renewables baked into that fuel mix. So this is kind of a great microcosm for this clean energy transition that is not really the case in many other areas. So this is a very interesting place for us to be. Everett, of all locations, having Sustainable Air Fuel Research Center over at Payne Field, community transit making this change as well for heavy duty bus service, and all of the other infrastructure kind of being, the table is set to help us move into this market. So it's an interesting place to start. I'm very excited to see and hear about where everyone else is going. And then, of course, with our own transition for our zero emission bus service, trying to bring that clean energy to our passengers and create a more sustainable future for the transportation of Snohomish and our people.
Thank you, Jay. John, the next question is for you. Snohomish County PUD has been a leader in renewable energy and electrification efforts. What major projects are currently underway, and how will they benefit local businesses and communities?
Well, first, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much, Ray, for having me here. Also, huge thanks to Jay for teeing me up so well. I appreciate that. We also appreciate the strong partnership we have with your team. Snohomish County PUD is proud that we already offer 97% carbon-free resources, whether it be hydro, wind, or solar. And so a lot of what we're focused on right now is that we anticipate Snohomish County is going to continue to be a vibrant and growing community. And unfortunately, that growth in power demand is not going to be even. I mean, even one data center coming into our region would significantly change the mix of where we need power and how much power we need. So we have a lot of projects underway right now that are designed to make our grid more resilient and meet these future power demands. Some of you may know in 2021, we commissioned the Arlington microgrid. This was an exciting project where we brought in solar and also a 1 megawatt battery storage to integrate that resource. And we've started the next phase of that project where we're bringing in a 25 megawatt battery to allow us at a transmission level to levelize our power. It gives us additional resiliency and also helps us keep costs low by not having to buy power at its absolute peak. This will be my one Price is Right, come on down moment, because if you are interested more in solar and battery technology and microgrids, or you just want to see our brand new North County office, our ribbon cutting is actually this Saturday on March 22nd. It is completely free. And I know there is nothing more exciting for everyone than to come see the utility of the future. So come on down this Saturday from 11:30 to 2:30 in Arlington. Some other projects that we've been doing, we took that knowledge on solar, and we've just commissioned last December our newest community solar project in South Everett. This is an exciting project because one, it is being administered, the credits from the solar generation are being administered by St. Vincent de Paul and are part of our assistance programs for income qualified customers. But the part about it that I find so exciting is that we intentionally chose that site because it is in an energy constrained area of growth. And so we know we're going to be generating power directly in the community that's going to be using it, which is super exciting for us. I could keep going on projects. I will call out the biggest one we have underway, though, SnowSmart, because none of these things work if we don't connect them on an intelligent grid. And I'm going to mess up what SnowSmart stands for, so I'm going to use my cheat sheet here. SnowSmart stands for Snohomish County's Secure, Modern, Automated, and Reliable Technology Project, which I know just rolls off the tongue, but it's not a catchy name. But what you need to know about this project is that we got a $30 million grant from the Department of Energy. We were always planning on building the grid of the future, but we were planning that over a 20-year timeline. Now we're talking about doing it in a 5-year timeline. And so this will allow us to upgrade our infrastructure and modernize our grid communication. It's going to improve our reliability. It's going to reduce our outage times. It's going to help us mitigate wildfire risks, and really lets us take that generational leap forward in our grid so that we can support new customers and new load wherever they may be in our service territory.
That's great news, John. Thank you. Barbara, Echandia is working on cutting-edge energy storage solutions for heavy-duty marine applications. How does battery technology play a role in the clean energy transition, and what's next in this space?
Thank you, Ray. Hi, everyone. My name is Barb. I'm from Echandia Marine. We are a energy storage solution company for heavy-duty marine applications, based out of Sweden, now expanding into North America, which is very exciting. And as mentioned earlier, we do have our first facility right here in Marysville. Thank you so much to everybody for being so welcoming. And yeah, Echandia is very unique because we're bringing big projects and big players to the forefront. And, you know, as John was just describing, obviously there's just so many projects and so many things going on in electrification, and all of them are fabulous, and every little bit counts. But where Echandia is unique, like I said, doing those big projects. So of course, just for an example, every EV car on the road, makes a difference. Of course, that's important to contributing to lower carbon emissions, but we work with commercial vehicles, just so everybody kind of gets that picture, which means big reductions in carbon. And just to share a little bit about Echandia, the projects in progress only to date will save over 400,000 tons of CO2 emissions over their lifetime. And just to put that in perspective for people who may not know, I mean, my little Tesla 3 will just save 50. So where Echandia comes into play is we're getting those big practical safe solutions onto the big players to make big impacts. And Echandia's chemistry is safest, lasts long. Their solutions last over 10 years. So it makes it very logical, cost-effective solutions for large vessels. And what's next is to move from the early adopters, where we are now here in North America, and move to it just being a normal part of how we live. Of course, that's supported by, projects like the grid and things like that, where we can just make it part of our normal everyday thing, where our buses and ships and everything are just electrical, as opposed to polluting every day.
Thanks so much. That's great news. And we really like having you in our county. It's a real source of pride. And if you haven't met Blue Water John at Blue Water, he's actually in Sweden right now, and a proud Swede. So you need to visit him. I've been telling him all about the company.
Yeah, absolutely. We have been making those connections. Obviously getting up and running and going as quick as possible and getting those jobs going is our priority right now. And then absolutely getting more involved in the community. So you'll see us around much more.
That's terrific. I'm going to pose this question to both Harry and Barbara. Transportation is one of the biggest contributors to carbon emission. And what role do state policies and investments play in helping Washington transition to a cleaner transportation opportunities?
Barb, do you want to start, or would you like me to kick it off?
Sure, I can start, no problem. Just kind of going more on the EV situation that I was just chatting about. Things like the credits and things like that, we can look at the EV industry, look at how things like EV credits have helped people adopt EV cars. So we can bring that situation into a more complex scenario, and additional subsidies in the marine industry will help ship owners do the same. So it motivates them to adopt electrification, hybridization of their vessels. And then, of course, not to forget, we need the infrastructure shoreside to support those changes. So, charging and getting the government to assist with those things. Of course, getting the batteries on the vessels is one thing, but then also charging and making them efficient is the other piece. So that's what I just wanted to add in for that. And Harry, you can take over now.
Yeah, so I mean, when I look back at this, doing my research in preparation for this as well, one thing that I noticed, at least in it, was for our emission portfolio in the state, passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles didn't have the major increases in carbon emission. So it's really been planes, trains, and boats that have resulted in the transportation sector's growth in carbon emissions lately. And so for us, when I look at what do our state policies do to help try to mitigate this in the near future, and we've got our EV charging policies out there, where we're through Commerce supporting both multifamily housing projects, residential, commercial facilities, and other public charging infrastructure projects that can help kind of, again, on the commercial and single use or individual car users. But then again, the larger state policies that are kind of pushing us away from this heavier carbon, or the traditional carbon environment, is the Clean Energy Transformation Act. That is pushing the grid towards the 100% renewable target. The Climate Commitment Act is the major funding source as well for a lot of these things. When we talk about it, that's the carbon tax on the emissions that we have. So yeah, for us, when we look at it, we have to say, all right, how are we going to deal with these challenges? If it's planes, boats, and trains, well, we can help with bringing companies like Echandia to the market into Washington State to bring battery solutions out here. But that also then helps with our statutory incentives, where EV propulsions, electric motors on boats have sales tax breaks on them. And we need to bring the cost of these projects down too, obviously, so it's more, levelized in that regard. On aviation, companies like Magniex, ZeroAvia are examples where, hydrogen is a next potential fuel source for our propulsion. And we are obviously home to the Pacific Northwest Hydrogen Hub too. All of these factors are playing in to hopefully drive down the cost of hydrogen, get it to commercially, acceptable cost levels, and that will be a major catalyst for, the aerospace sector as well. Boats, we'll see what fuel everybody wants to do, but we're very blessed in the state as well to have a lot of waste wood stock, waste biomass at this point. And this biocarbon could be used in sustainable aviation projects, in methanol projects. Likewise with our hydrogen sector, ammonium, great for turning into a more clean fertilizer for our farming sector. But ammonium itself is a potential fuel source for the maritime sector. It's not going to be a one size fits all, and that's what our policies recognize as well, is that it's going to take hydrogen, it's going to take electrification, it's going to take sustainable aviation fuel, it's going to take renewable diesels, biofuels, things like that. So that's what I would say state policy wise, is that we're trying to help just push the market with the support that's necessary and provide the framework to make these transitions.
Boy, it's an exciting future. Jake, community transit's been making strides towards a zero emission fleet. Can you share with us the latest on your transition efforts and what's needed to keep the momentum going?
For sure. Thanks so much for the question. And Harry, to I guess kick off of what you said there is a balanced portfolio of energy options that really will help any transition. CT has been already adopting renewable diesel for our conventional diesel fleet, and that makes huge strides in reduction of greenhouse gas emissions across the fleet. And just to put a plug in there, if folks would like to contribute to this kind of greenification of our environment, one of the best choices you can make is to ride a bus. That is a service that is out there and is provided. And as we make that transit option cleaner, getting out of your car and hopping on a bus is a convenient and a relatively reliable option to get from where you are to where you want to be. So I guess a little background on CT's pilot projects here. We initiated a side-by-side pilot in the 2023 carrying into 2024 timeframe and operating now with one battery electric bus and one hydrogen fuel cell bus, both of which we are testing actively. And that is part of our kind of long-range strategy here is to find the best fit for the capability of those vehicles. In many cases, battery electric buses are very robust and reliable for kind of short commuter trips from A to B. In some of our service area, it can be challenging to deploy those battery buses due to the range and recharge cycles. Those buses can take a very long time to recharge for the relatively short range that it provides. And that is where hydrogen is interesting to us, where it gives more of an operational profile similar to diesel with a quick refueling time and that extended range. Trialing this is a challenge, and there's challenges from technology perspective. There's challenges from a funding perspective. It's very expensive currently to run hydrogen projects, as Harry was mentioning. And so driving that cost down via the hub, H2DI and other initiatives, both within our own region here and nationally is really going to make that adoption much more sustainable from a financial standpoint. We approach this project from really three pillars, and that is people, planet, and prosperity, or operational, environmental, and financial. And just like any stool, all three legs must be in balance or you tip over. That's really where the state policy and funding and our federal partnership can continue to help us, is with driving that forward through continuous investments across time. These are the buses, at least for us, are 2 or 3 times more expensive than their diesel counterparts. And so it's a very tricky situation to continue to scale that. CT is pretty well positioned to handle the initial tranche of conversion. But beyond that, really requires ongoing federal and state support to continue to move the needle there. Within our pilot, we have about 8,000 miles of testing on our battery bus so far. The fuel cell bus is going to be out there in the wild serving customer trips very soon. And we'll collect that data and use that to help inform both our partner agencies, the wider region, like ZeroAvia, a plug there. We've been engaged with them as well to talk about how can we make hydrogen? How could we share hydrogen? Because it is not just a point solution for one organization. It's really a market that needs to continue to develop in order for that to be sustainable for everyone. So we're on this kind of long game, 20-year horizon. We have a committed target of 2044 to convert our fleet. And we'll have to take a measured and incremental approach, especially as the policy landscape changes over the next few years.
Yeah, just a follow-on question, Jay. Are you starting to see, are you concerned about federal grants at this point? Are you seeing any pullback on that?
It's something that we're actively monitoring. I think it's a little too early for us to make any kind of calls on that. But again, as these buses are so expensive, it is something that we need to monitor very tightly and make pivots if needed in our planning as we scale the fleet up and build the infrastructure to support that.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask this question, and anyone on the panel who wants to weigh in would be appreciated. So many clean technology companies, including those in transportation, are dealing with supply chain risk, including tariffs on international manufacturers. What policy solutions or industry collaboration could help address some of these barriers?
This also kind of seems to relate to one of the questions in our chat or comment section that I see here.
Okay.
I'm happy to just briefly kind of address some of these things, especially the question, because it relates to this. Unfortunately, it's hard to say. With the federal changes, one thing in general is if it's contractually obligated, we're pushing forward for that to be, delivered. That was appropriated funds. Those are contracts that are inked and signed and ready to move forward. So, we at Commerce, with what capacity we have, support those projects by bringing that up to our representatives, whoever's inside of that kind of network of support, so to say. One thing I would highlight first and foremost, though, to these new challenges is that look in your local region and find the nearest foreign trade zone as soon as possible. Foreign trade zones are going to be your quickest option to shielding some of the tariff and duty impacts that come out of it. So the way I frame it is a foreign trade zone, think of it as an island. And when your product arrives in that island, it's not subject to the tariff or duty until it leaves that island. And that's only just a time deferral of that cost. You still will have that cost if that product ultimately enters into the United States market. You'll pay it at the end of the time. If you're manufacturing and you're inside of an FTZ, foreign trade zone again for short, and so here's the caveat, right? You're manufacturing inside of a foreign trade zone, and your product doesn't even enter the United States market, goes back out for export, you will not have tariff and duty subject on it. Now, there are obviously stipulations and rules that you'd want to check with on lawyers and make sure that you're, properly following all guidelines on it. But in general, that's the gist of the foreign trade zone is provide a temporary shield to those tariffs and duties until it either enters into the U.S. market or, leaves it, and then you don't even have to worry about it necessarily. But yeah, I mean, foreign trade zones are your quickest option right now to dealing with these impacts.
I'll jump in and just, add on like to Harry, obviously at Echandia, we've been having a lot of discussions, obviously at every company we have these. And, I would say the most important thing to look at is long-term for all these large projects. Of course, like Harry said, there's short-term solutions. Of course, you want to mitigate, immediate risks and things like that. But the biggest solution is to work and collaborate. And a point just being, Harry said, join in on calls like this, maybe find out information that you didn't know about before. And that's where, places like the Washington State Department of Commerce has been super helpful for Echandia as well. Like collaboration is the way that we will, manage the uncertainty. Uncertainty is scary and things that come forward, but the way is to reach out and not work in silos. That doesn't work for anybody. It doesn't matter, whether they're tariffs or uncertainty or anything. Working together in collaboration is definitely what I would say the most important thing is.
I appreciate both of your response to that question. And I would just add, the Economic Alliance and our ADO contracts, as well as the other ADOs across the state, wherever we should be focusing our attention on recruiting, whether it's nationally or internationally, it's really important that we, as Barbara says, we have that dialogue going on, so the ADOs can be focused on the right partners for that future. Mel, there's a lot of excitement about sustainable aviation fuel and the upcoming research center in Snohomish County. How big of an impact could this have on our region's economy and workforce?
It's going to be big, to put it, the short version. Estimates I've seen to produce sustainable aviation fuel at scale, we're going to need to produce enormous amounts of fuel in the 33 to 36 billion gallons per year range. A large scale SAF plant at commercial viability would produce, estimates are around just a drop in the bucket of that, 50 million gallons per year at a single facility. That's fairly large scale, and that's certainly larger scale than what this research plant is going to be. Constructing a single facility of that size would represent about 2,200 jobs, both in constructing the facility and supply chain, and then operating that facility would represent about 1,400 jobs a year, about 900 in supply chain, and that includes a lot of agricultural jobs, and about 550 in operating the plant itself. So a single facility will represent a lot of jobs and a lot of economic development for a region where that lands. But to tie this back to what everyone else has been talking about, that facility is going to require a lot of energy to operate. It's going to continue to complexify our grid. It's going to continue to represent a lot of transportation costs and moving those materials to and from the plant. We're going to want to produce these in a hyper-local kind of implementation. We don't want to produce all of our SAF as a nation in, Utah, and then truck it all over the nation. It needs to be right next to the airports where it's getting operated and used. And it's also going to have implications in other sectors, because what we learn as we research and finish commercializing SAF there at the center of Payne Field is going to affect other industries as well. It's going to affect all kinds of heavier duty, higher carbon intensity transportation that could benefit from clean fuels. Right now, we don't know if batteries or hydrogen or clean SAF fuels, it's like VHS versus beta, for those of you that are as old as I am and know what those were, or I guess Blu-ray versus whatever, streaming, right? It's which way are we going to go when both are viable, and what's going to actually achieve that market penetration on that scale? So transit authorities that are beginning their commercialization to hydrogen fuel cell buses, we still aren't certain that's where we're going to land with our large scale bus fleets, right? And so you've got workforce implications for training those maintenance technicians for those buses, while transit agencies are still like, well, what if we need electric ones, and what if we're going, over here? Even fusion could become a viable player for this heavy scale transportation. So there's a lot going on right now for alternative fuels and clean fuels. We talked a lot about feedstocks and the fact that this can benefit agriculture, and Snohomish County has a strong agricultural community that could participate and benefit in this. But one more thing to consider is we can also make SAF out of thin air. We can use direct air carbon capture or point of emission carbon capture while we're still transitioning, and manufacture sustainable aviation fuel. But that also takes a lot of electricity. So there's a lot of plus up and circularity and lapping through and complexifying, and all of these things kind of touch one another at the end of the day, which makes what I do fascinating and also a little exhausting, right? We have to connect all these various industries, but if we can get it to spin up, they're going to help grow one another and grow together. And that's really exciting for our community to be poised on the brink of, well, these jobs are going to make these jobs, are going to make these jobs, and then we have these exports. That's a really cool story that we want to see happen in communities all across Washington. And I'll go back to what I said at the beginning about our strong suite of climate policy. We have to do it here. And that's a huge opportunity to grow the businesses that have to solve it here and are ahead in helping to export it to the rest of the country or the world.
Thanks, Mel. That's fascinating. Harry, from a business development perspective, what types of clean energy or sustainability-driven industries do you see as the next big growth sectors for our state? And what can we do to support building out and strengthening these opportunity clusters, whether it's fusion or hydrogen or what it might be, nuclear?
Well, we've touched on a lot of these sectors already, right? We see the maritime electrification sector as well. There's fuel cell usage for that. But let's take a larger perspective real quick too. I think what really will come down from the business development perspective of what drives clean tech in the state too is communities that have put together a comprehensive, doesn't have to be a comprehensive economic development strategy, but should be, you know, at least a base economic development strategy of what they want to target. What kind of industries do they want to grow and support inside of the clean tech sector? And then finding a specific site or location in their area and focusing on an industrial park, so to say. And where I think that the real opportunity is in industrial symbiosis. That is then having these new or these clean tech industries co-located close by. So a hydrogen production plant with maybe excess heat or something can then pipe that waste heat to another facility. That facility utilizes their heat in their manufacturing process. That's going to be a really strong case to have both business expansion and business recruitment. You know, you have a developable square of land, you have the strategy around it, and there's examples that we're learning from abroad as well, like Kallenberg out in Denmark. You know, there are good examples of industrial symbiosis in action that take in clean tech, and you know, it reduces the intensity of some of our traditional industries that might be more difficult to decarbonize. And that's going to be really important, right? We can't recruit everything into the state. We have to focus on what exists and expand and retain those businesses and enable them to transition into the next generation of technologies. We know those new generation of technologies are expensive and whatnot. So it's going to be a challenge, you know, between CCA funding and other sources of funding. But that would be the long-term strategy from a business development perspective. Communities have a good idea of what they want to do, what fits into their, you know, regional competitive advantages, and then they identify that land. We work, you know, statewide, local-wide to recruit and bring in companies or expand the existing ones. But then when I look at Snohomish and I say, all right, what else is on the forecast? You know, what do we have in clean tech that could be really interesting for Snohomish County? Offshore wind is a big one, right? With your aerospace sector and your as well timber resources and our work with our Oregon partners with the Mass Timber Coalition. Breakthroughs in that, you know, timber and other products going into offshore wind, great opportunity for Snohomish County. Not only port facilities, but close to the Port of Seattle. So, you know, equipment can be made and shipped quickly and close by. Mel talked about it, sustainable aviation fuel. That's going to be a huge opportunity for Snohomish County as well. Fusion, fusion is huge. We got to keep going on that. Other opportunities include, you know, smaller on-site green hydrogen production, green hydrogen to ammonium fertilizer in more small cases too. There's a lot of excellent opportunity out there, but again, it comes down to that long-term perspective. It really helps when communities know what they want to pursue and what fits into their advantages. So yeah.
Thank you, Harry. I appreciate that. So I'm going to ask this question, and anyone on the panel wants to take a swing at it, that'd be terrific. So what advice would you give to businesses? And we have many on the line today, whether you're a small startup, large enterprise, who wants to be part of that green economy, but they don't know where to start. What advice would you give them?
Well, that's what I do every day, Ray, is help companies get into this sector and understand what we fondly call the clean tech valley of death. which is a whole lot of little hurdles along the way, but there's a more extended time to commercialization and wide-scale adoption for clean technology than other industries. And so we try to offer programming for companies every step along that journey in every little micro valley on that valley of death. But get on my website, subscribe to my newsletter, start coming to a couple of networking events and ask questions and meet people. Maybe at the CleanTech Alliance, we have resources that can help you, or we partner with folks like Economic Alliance of Snohomish County and other organizations throughout the state. We work closely with a lot of different folks at Commerce. So good conversations with our staff and our board can help you find some resources and navigate what that next hurdle might be for you. Find other like-minded individuals. Barb said this earlier, we have to collaborate. We have to work together to solve these hard to solve sticky challenges. And Ray, I think you brought it up and Harry mentioned it a little bit, that cluster economic development model that Washington State has rolled out is one way that we do bring competitors together to try and solve joint challenges to advance their industries faster. When we first began our fusion industry cluster 5 years ago, it took us 18 months to get all of the fusion CEOs on the same Zoom call because they don't want to collaborate. They're in a cutthroat competition to be first to a $40 trillion industry. But they have identified there's a lot they can do together. And it's really fun to get together with that group now and they're friends. They know where their swim lane is to collaborate. They've built that trust. And then they know what's the secret sauce that they don't talk about, and it's really an interesting way of doing business and working with companies. So get involved with one of the many clusters in the state and find other people working in your sector and figure out how to attack these challenges together.
That's great.
Yeah, just to jump in with Mel, I would say absolutely that is the way. And I mean, in this industry and in any, in any kind, is collaboration is key. The opportunities are out there and competition does not, you don't need to be, there's not just one drumstick on the table. Like there's lots of opportunities out there and working together really is the way, especially with climate change being the blanket kind of goal out there. Nobody's going to win if everybody's, in competition. Collaboration is the way with, as Mel was saying with her efforts with the Washington State of Commerce, like all Economic Alliance, like there's so many different ways out there to just reach out, not be humble, find out what you don't know. People have already done certain things. Find out from people's mistakes. Don't waste your time there. So, that's what I was saying. You don't need to be reinventing the wheel. Working together really is the way to get started and just get started. You're not going to get anywhere unless you get going.
So after you talk to Mel and you have a plan, your next call, please call the utility because we want to help companies start off as green as possible. We have a small but mighty team that is dedicated to helping customers actually use less of our resources, which is always odd when I'm encouraging people to use less of my product, but it's intentional because we know conserving the green power that we already have is going to be the cheapest way to get more green power as we grow. So we would love to work with every business from day one so that you are opening up with as energy efficient setup as possible.
Thanks, John. Mel, I'm going to be reaching out to you and I'd like to set up a meeting with my team and I to make sure that, in addition to the leads that we're getting proactively in Snohomish County, what industries, what sectors should we be pursuing proactively to close some of these gaps. So I appreciate your insight and I'm going to put you on speed dial here shortly.
Yeah, there's plenty to do, and Everett and Snohomish County are so well positioned to attract new manufacturing. It's really exciting.
It's terrific. So as we wrap up today's discussion, I want to take a moment to thank our incredible panelists, Mel, John, Jay, Barbara, and Harry, for sharing your expertise and insights with us. It's clear that the green economy is just not an environmental imperative, but a significant economic driver for Snohomish County and beyond. And we've heard about the exciting advancements in clean technology, the challenges and opportunity in energy innovation, and a critical role that businesses, policymakers, and industrial leaders play in shaping a more sustainable future. And while there's still a lot of work to be done, today's conversation reinforces our region as a well-positioned state to lead in this space. I want to thank all of you for joining us today. Your engagement and interest in these important topics are what makes these conversations meaningful. If you like to stay involved, I would encourage you to continue connecting with our speakers, explore ways to integrate sustainability into your business, and of course, stay tuned for future coffee chat discussions. And once again, a big thanks to our sponsor, Herald Media, for your generous support in this event. We appreciate your partnership in fostering conversations that drive economic growth and innovation in our community. A commercial plug here before we go today. I'd like to invite all of you to the Economic Alliance annual meeting on April 22nd at Tulalip Resort Casino. This is our annual signature event that brings together business leaders, elected officials, and community stakeholders to share what we've accomplished in the past year and to look ahead to the future. This year's event will be a feature. Our keynote speaker will be Joe Wynn, Director of Washington State Department of Commerce. Please don't miss this opportunity to connect, engage, and help shape the future of Snohomish County's economy. And to register, scan the QR code on the screen or visit economicalliancesc.org for these events. I'd like to invite the most important business to government event in our region. The 2025 North Puget Sound Contracting Conference is returning to the Linwood Event Center November 6th. This annual conference connects businesses with contracting opportunities, and it's a big part of what we do in our apex sector for local, state, and at the federal level as well. And whether you're a small business looking to break into government contracting or an established firm seeking new opportunity, this event is a must attend. So to conclude, hopefully all of you survived St. Paddy's Day. This morning, we're going to raise our coffee mugs to thank all of our presenters and thank all of you who have joined us. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.